What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now, this week marks the final week of our Ranger series as we are covering the Drakewarden. Now, yes, D comes very early in the alphabet compared to the others, and yes, I normally go in alphabetical order. However, this time I did it a little bit different. Thank you all for pointing all of that out in the comments below. Yes, I did skip it initially, and now I'm coming back to it. The reason I did that is because I wanted Gloomstalker to fall on Halloween, because I felt like that was a little more thematic, and so just pushing this one to the end made that work. So here we are. We are talking about the Dragon Boy today, and I'm excited to do so. I know that this is a lot of people's favorite new subclass because you get to have a dragon friend, but we're gonna have to find out if it is mechanically any good. So let's do that in just a second. Before we do, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. As you can see, most people who watch the channel are not subscribed, so please don't be one of those people. Help us to reach our goal of what was 4,000. Let's make it 3,600 by the end of this year. We definitely can do it, but of course I need your help to get there. Then click the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded, and share the video with your friends. One more thing before we jump into it, I wanted to mention one thing for those of you who may not see Friday's video or whatever it happens to be, but this week is probably going to be the last week of me being in this current office space. I am working on possibly moving. There are still a few things that that may or may not happen, but basically we're in the process of possibly moving. And so with that means that there's going to be a bit of a stall on content. So I was already going to take a couple of weeks off here at the end of December, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get started back up as quickly as what I was hoping. I was hoping to start up like start of the year and get going with Rogue. It's probably going to be more like February before I get going on the Rogue series. But just so you know, I'm not, you know, when I delay all those videos, it's not because I'm quitting or anything. I'm moving and my computer will not be ready to post content. So that's the reason. Just wanted to let you all know. So we're excited. We're excited for a new setting, a new office space, a new all that good stuff. And so I hope you all are looking forward to that as well. So just wanted to let you know. I'll remind you on Friday, but just want to mention that before we jump in. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and do that. So what is a Drakewarden? For those of you who have been living under a rock, the Drakewarden came out in the Fizzbands book, and you get to have a dragon pet. Essentially, it's kind of like the Beastmaster, which we talked about a while ago. I'll put that up in the iCard above. But instead of a beast friend, you have an animal friend. Now, I do think personally that this one is a little bit different. I don't think that they're necessarily a one-for-one type of thing, so I don't expect them to rank the same necessarily, but as far as function, they're kind of the same, right? You have one friend instead of having a ton, like what we talked about last week with Swarmkeeper. You know, you've got one really cool friend, and basically you have this all the way from a hatchling all the way up to it being a big strong dragon that you can ride around on while it flies, which is really cool. So there's a lot of really fun stuff flavor wise for this, and there's a really compelling story to be told in this as well. However, is it any good? Let's find out. Starting off, we have a flavor piece, and that is Draconic Gift. So this gives us two things. Number one, we get the Thaumaturgy spell, and we also get to learn Draconic or one other language of our choice. This is more of a ribbon feature. Like I said, there's not really anything crazy about this. I'm not really sure why we get the Thaumaturgy spell. Let me know in the comments below why the Thaumaturgy spell was the play. I don't know. Not my personal pick, but you know, whatever. And we also, of course, can learn Draconic, which, you know, we should definitely know if we didn't already. So, you know, that's kind of a necessary thing just to make sure that we can communicate with our dragon. You know, it's fine. It's a ribbon feature for all it's worth. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. It's fine. There are a lot worse cantrips out there that we could have gotten than Thaumaturgy. So, you know, I can't knock it too badly, and ultimately we do need Draconic, or else we're just not able to communicate with our dragon. So just one of those things. You need it, but it's not super exciting. What is exciting though is Drake Companion, which also comes at level 3. This is what gives us access to our actual dragon. Now this works very similarly to the Beastmaster in that you can summon it and it stays alive for as long as you want. It's not like the original Beastmaster where if it dies and you got to go find another one. No, you summon this spirit, it becomes a Drake, and you can have that to fight alongside you. You get to choose what color it is. Choosing the color, of course, is very important because that chooses what type of damage it deals and what type of damage immunity that it has. So that's very important. And what's also great is that between different summonings, you can choose different types of these drakes. So if you go into a place where you've got a fire one and you're dealing with a bunch of fire elementals, yeah, you're immune, but you're also dealing fire damage, which doesn't help you there as well. So you could possibly change that up and help yourself out in that way. So definitely could be used to your advantage in a lot of different ways. It of course uses your bonus action in order to make its actual attacks. If you don't tell it to do anything or use your bonus action on something else, it'll just take the dodge action, which isn't too bad. And so, yeah, I mean, it's really following the new companion rules, which are so much better than the prior ones. So that's pretty cool. As far as its stats go, it has its own stat block, which I'll put on screen for you right there. It's pretty chunky as far as how much it gets, and it's also pretty chunky in its AC plus its speed and hit points and all that stuff. It of course scales with your proficiency bonus and of course as you level as well. So you get 14 plus your proficiency bonus in armor. I mean, that starts out at a 16 armor class and that's going to eventually go up to a 20. That's pretty great, actually. I'm not opposed to that at all. And then you get 5 plus 5 times your ranger level. So if you start at level 1, it'll have 10, and then it of course will go up. It'll go up from there, which is really awesome. I think that's really cool. Of course, this thing does have hit dice as well. It has a D10 hit die, so that way if you take a short rest and want to get some health back, you can do that, of course, which is going to be great. And a 40-foot speed, that's pretty nice as well. I like that. Its stats aren't the worst. I mean, it doesn't have good intelligence or charisma, but who cares? I certainly don't. It's got a bonus to its dexterity and wisdom saving throws. Those are two of the best ones to have. It is of course immune to what type of damage is associated with its color. It of course has dark vision up to 60 feet. It's really, really cool. Its bite attack does pretty decent damage. 1d6 plus proficiency bonus isn't terrible. And it also gets infused strikes, which is even more important. It uses its reaction to help out with an attack that's within 30 feet of it, whether it's its attack or somebody else's attack, and it helps to deal an extra d6 of damage on top of whatever it is it was dealing already of the type of damage that the dragon is associated with. There's a lot here, right? This is a ton in this one feature, and it's really, really cool. Looking at this stat block, it's got a lot to love, right? It's pretty bulky at a 16 AC to start and eventually a 20. It starts out with 10 hit points and eventually will be actually quite beefy at level 20 if you get that far. A 40-foot speed is really nice. Having bonuses to both dexterity and wisdom saving throws on top of having decent dexterity and wisdom scores also is great. It's just all around a really solid companion here at level 3. And of course, this is going to get even better and better as you go. For a level 3 like companion, helper, whatever it is that you want to call it, I've got to give this a 9 out of 10. I think that it's really good, actually. I don't really have a whole lot that I don't like, especially because if it dies, you just make another one at the cost of a first level spell slot, which is always going to be worth it. Or, you know, once you have your long rest, you can do it again for free. Either way, I'm totally cool with that. The price that you pay on that is more than worth it. So I'm cool with that. The infused strikes is really what gets me, what makes it really worth it, because then it uses its own reaction. It doesn't cost anything on you to deal this extra damage. So to me, you know, I'm currently in a running of Wild Beyond the Witchlight, right? And one of my fellow players is playing as a Heron-Gone Drakewarden. And so you fire your arrow in the air, it's going towards an enemy, and then it uses its reaction and and it spits out whatever, it connects with the arrow and deals extra damage of that type, right? My friend is using the poison damage, and so that is what happens to deal there. But of course it can be acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison. So you can choose any of those. And of course those can definitely help out depending on what it is that you're fighting. So for all those reasons, I think that this is great, and it's only going to get better as we level up. At level 7, we get Bond of Fang and Scale, and of course this is just another scaling feature for our dragon. So with this, not only does it grow to a medium size, but it also now has a flying speed equal to its walking speed, which of course was 40 feet, which is great. One thing that's really nice about this though is that it allows you to kind of break the rules of mounted combat, in that if you are medium sized, normally you would have to be riding a large size creature. This allows you to break that and actually ride it even though you're both medium sized, which is really good. That really opens up the ability to ride this. However, it cannot fly if you are riding it. So that's a little tough. Everybody wants to be able to ride the flying dragon, but we've got to wait a little bit longer before we can do that. Next up, Magic Fang allows us to deal an extra d6 of damage of whatever type that the dragon is actually doing. So that's cool. So it was doing 1d6 before plus our proficiency bonus. Now it's doing 2d6 plus proficiency. Not too bad. And also we gain resistance to the type of damage that our dragon is associated with. All of these things are really good, right? Getting a flying speed is awesome. Now, would I like to ride it now? Yes, I would. Is that too much to ask? I don't think so personally, but you know, it is what it is. I didn't design the subclass. It's still really cool, right? It still can be used for scouting. It's basically a really buffed up familiar, and you can of course talk to it. You can straight up talk to it because it talks in Draconic. You speak Draconic back from what you got at level 3, so you can have a conversation with your dragon about what it saw when it went in the sky. So honestly, it's fine. Like it's totally fine. It being able to break how mounted combat works is really essential here, because it is a medium-sized creature. This would pigeonhole you into being a small creature if you want to ride it, which really kind of would suck if it worked the other way. So I'm really glad that they give you that exception. It makes a huge difference. Otherwise this would get a pretty bad ranking. The extra damage always going to be good. Like I said, as our bonus action, this thing is out here dealing 2d6 plus proficiency bonus. That's not bad. That's not bad at all, really, for a bonus action attack. Technically, I'll take that. And of course, if you're using flanking rules or anything, then you can just get flanking with yourself, with your dragon, right? We personally use flanking rules at our table, but they are not official, so I don't assume that you are. If you use them at your table, you can get this with yourself and just deal a bunch of damage, and it's really cool. And then giving you resistance to its particular type that it is associated with is also really valuable here, right? So then this gives you more of a reason to, if you are going to be fighting a bunch of fire type things, then you can just go with a red dragon, and then you are resistant to all the damage that's incoming. Your dragon's immune, and yeah, its extra damage isn't going to be doing anything, but still, like, then the thing just can't kill you or your friend. And that's kind of worth it. You know, that's kind of worth it to me. I think that it becomes a lot more worth it once we as the PC get a benefit rather than it only being on the dragon itself. And so that's the big distinction for me. All of this really results in a great boost that it really needs at level 7. And I don't dislike anything that's about this, minus not being able to ride it when it flies. That takes away a point for me. So it's a 9 out of 10. Again, I want to give it a 10, but I can't because we can't ride it while it flies. And that's enough to take away a point, unfortunately, but still really good. At level 11, we get Drake's Breath, and this gives pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a breath weapon, but it's unique in its own way. So with this now, as an action, instead of it being the new rules where you can replace an attack with a breath weapon, I wish that they had done that, but they didn't. You can choose to exhale a 30-foot cone of breath, or cause your Drake to do it as well. You get to choose the type of damage that it deals, and it does not have to match the type that your dragon currently is associated with. That's an important distinction here. Each creature in the cone then makes a dex save, or it takes 8d6. That's a fireball is exactly what that is. Then that damage increases to 10d6 when you reach 15th level. That's more than a fireball, which is pretty cool. Once you use this, you can't do it again until you finish a long rest, unless you use a 3rd level spell slot or higher to use it again. This feature is pretty cool. It does have its limitations, but let's talk about those in a second. Let's talk about the good stuff first. You get to exhale a 30-foot cone either from your space or from your dragons. That's a lot of area. A 30-foot cone is pretty huge. I think people really sleep on how big cones really are in D&D. At least that's my experience. You know, we hear like a 10-foot or 15-foot cone and people think, that's not that big. It's bigger than you think, to be honest, as far as how wide that ends up being. Once you get to a 30-foot cone, that's pretty huge. So I'm more than okay with how much room this takes up. Obviously, you're going to want to be careful to not have any kind of friendly fire, but still, it's nice. You get to choose the type of damage, and it doesn't have to be what your dragon is. So again, you know, that same situation, we're fighting a bunch of fire elementals, right? You've got a fire dragon, so you're resistant to it and it's immune. You don't have to deal fire damage here. You can deal a different type of damage. You can deal cold, you can deal lightning, you can deal acid, you can do what you want to get around that immunity if you both are dealing the same type of damage. That is the distinction here that makes this feature worth using. If you were locked into what it has to do, this feature goes down quite a bit in my book. But the fact that you can choose makes a big difference, and I really like that. It's the same damage as a fireball, which is great, and that's what makes it worth a 3rd level spell slot to do it again. So I'm okay with the cost. Yes, we're a ranger that doesn't get that many spell slots in it and it's slow, but it's worth it. It's totally worth it, especially since it then goes to 10d6 at level 15. I think it's deserved. I think it's fine. Do I think that this is insanely busted? No, because I really wish that it was replace an attack rather than just as an action. That does take away a little bit for me, unfortunately. So with that, I've got to take down at least 1 notch. And I don't know, just something about it is just not quite what I need it to be a 9. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. There's a lot of good here, right? I really think the damage is good. I think it's necessary. But again, you know, our wisdom may not be that great, which is kind of tough, right? We are, of course, a class that relies on 2 different ability scores to be good, and so our spell saving throw DC is not going to be as good as, say, any spellcaster casting fireball. That hurts us a little bit, and that's something definitely we have to consider. Now, it is nice being able to do it from both our space and the dragon, and having the versatility of the type. That all helps. And being able to do it again with a 3rd level spell slot, I think is totally fair. But I think that creatures are going to pass the saving throw a lot more than what you like, and I just don't think it's quite there. I don't know. I wish that there was a better way to word this. I wish that it wasn't your entire action. I wish it was just replace an attack. I don't know. That would just make this a lot better in my eyes. Finally, at level 15, we get Perfected Bond, and this makes our dragon the ultimate companion. So with this, it now does a few more things. It now grows to size large, and we can now ride it while it is flying. So that is huge. We now get to do all the things we ever dreamed of. On top of that, we get an extra d6 of damage onto its bite attack. So now it is dealing 3d6 plus proficiency bonus, which is not bad as a bonus action. Then finally, we get reflexive resistance. So while we are within 30 feet of our Drake, we can use our reaction to give either us or the dragon resistance to an instance of damage. And we can do that a number of times per day, equal to our proficiency bonus. All of these are good. All of these things are good. We now can achieve our dream of riding our dragon into battle. That's what we wanted to do since level 1. It took 15 levels, which is rough. It's really rough that it takes this long to be able to do the one thing we've been trying to do this entire time. But it is what it is, right? I also think that they could have come up with a better name for a feature than Large Drake. I don't know. I think that could have been a little bit more creative, but whatever. But Extra damage on the bite, again, as our bonus action, not bad. And this gives us a use of a reaction while our Drake has had a use of its reaction the entire time. I think that's good. And what that means is that they don't conflict, right? That means you can still deal the extra damage with the Drake, and you can resist damage with yourself. Now, I do wish that at some point they had buffed the amount of damage that the infused strikes did. I really wish that that had been buffed. I don't see why they don't, and why it doesn't, you know, go up with the bite. That to me seems like a waste of scaling, but oh well, it is what it is. Overall though, Perfected Bond, it's really nice. But ultimately I really wanted to buff that other feature. So because I'm a little salty on that, and because it took so long to be able to do this, 9 out of 10. I still got to take a point away. Sorry, can't give it a 10. I don't think it's perfect. I think it could have gone just a little bit farther and it would have been okay. So what do we think of the Drakewarden Ranger? Now listen, I want to talk about this, and this ranking may ruffle some feathers where I get to, and let me explain before I tell you what my final ranking is. The thing about the Drakewarden is that ultimately your focus is on your companion, and there aren't a ton of boosts that you get to yourself. Namely, we don't get an expanded spell list here. That is a huge thing to be missing, and so I need to point that out, that there is a feature that almost every other ranger gets that we do not. The only other rangers that don't get it are the ones from the PHB. Every other ranger gets an expanded spell list. And that makes a huge difference, right? What if we had gotten access to, I don't know, a Chardalon Stride, Summon Draconic Spirit, like, you know, some of these spells that give you access to dragon things, and it just would have made this a lot more flavorful and would have made you that much more useful rather than necessarily only your dragon. These features are good, and the dragon itself as a companion is nice. However, when you look at it in comparison to other subclasses, it does fall short in some ways. And so we have to think about that when we are considering our ranking. You know, really this subclass fits in that like bordering on 10 kind of range. Like, it's a really good subclass, but it does miss out on a few things. Like I said, almost all the boosts here are to your dragon. You don't get to deal any extra damage outside of infused strikes, maybe. That helps you to deal some. You get the Thaumaturgy cantrip, which is, you know, take it or leave it. You get resistance to some damage, which isn't terrible. You get a breath weapon, but it also can just as easily be your Drake's, and it takes your action to do that. I wish that it was either your bonus action or just replace an attack. So that's a little rough. And then reflexive resistance again can be either one. So I don't know. It doesn't quite buff you up as much as what I wish that it did. It buffs up your dragon fine. I think the dragon ends up being really cool, but it takes a long time to do it, and it doesn't quite do it in a way that could be the best, I guess. It could be improved. Is this a bad subclass? Not even a little bit. No, this is not a bad subclass. Is this the same ranking as the Beastmaster in my opinion? No, I think this is better than the Beastmaster. The Beastmaster got a 6, and I kind of messed up my ranking because I did a build there and I should have fixed it, but whatever. This is not low enough to where it needs a fix. I think that it's good enough as it is. I think that it deserves a build. So we're at least locked into a 7 or higher, which is good. But overall, where do I think this lands? Is it good enough to give it a 10? I don't think so. I really don't. I don't think it's as good as Gloomstalker. So next we're gonna look at like Fey Wanderer, right? Is it as good as the Fey Wanderer? And honestly, I think it's close. I think it's right there. I think it's right there. So here's what I'm gonna do. I really think that this subclass is like an 8.6. I think it's like an 8.6. So we're gonna round that up to a 9. I think it's a low 9, but I think that I have to give this a 9. I think it's really, really good. I really like the subclass, but I think it's the lowest of the 9s, if that makes any sense. So yeah, let me know what you think down below. I don't know. This was a tough one for me just because it does get so much good stuff, but ultimately it is also lacking in other ways, but there's just so much good here. There's so much good here. And so I have to give it a good ranking. So let me know what you think down below. Am I being too generous? Am I being too harsh? I'd love to know what you think down below. Later this week, we're going to do our final Ranger build, and then we will be taking a bit of a break for at least a month and maybe even a little more, just depending. And then we will get back in with Rogue. Until next time, stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.